Copy. Hey everybody, my name is Second Sergeant Trina, and today, Tuesday, May 5th, is another day for our professional development segment called Airmanship. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about Airmanship 200, but first and foremost, before we begin, let's go over why we do this again, right? So Airmanship 200, what it is a professional development curriculum. I can say curriculum, basically designed about providing professional development to airmen in training. So while you guys are going through technical training, we're trying to help you become a better airman, a better person, so that you can get through your technical training more successfully and have a more intrinsic value in what you're doing right now. And then that way you can build a deeper relationship to your level of commitment and your level of service in the Air Force. All right, so just remember, guys, that everything we talked about, the majority of what we talk about here are my views and my opinions alone. Nothing's really endorsed by the Air Force aside from the curriculum that we're going to cover. So it's just my opinion as we go through this, providing professional development. So, secondly, let's speak up, chat up. Okay, I got the chat open right now. As you guys ask questions and do stuff and go over the material with me in chat, ask whatever questions you want, and then from there I could read them out on the stream, and we can get through it, and we can kind of have this talk, facilitated talk between each other, so that I get your perspective as an airman in training. And with that, today's topic is going to be lethality, and I have Senior Master Sergeant Gutierrez with me. And Senior Master Sergeant Gutierrez, could you introduce yourself, sir?
How's it going, everybody? Senior Master Sergeant Robert Gutierrez Jr. I am the group superintendent for the Special Warfare Human Performance Support Group here within the Special Warfare Training Wing at JBSA LAC on the Chapman Annex.
Awesome. So, as we go through here, we're gonna get a hold of we're gonna talk about lethality, and from there we're gonna kind of relate that to what we do as airmen in training and how we're gonna progress through our career and get professionally developed. So let's dive right in as we get through this. Lethality. Here's our objectives today. Understanding how the different AFSCs contribute to lethality and the relationship between readiness and lethality. The tip of the spear is only lethal if it is backed by the mass of the staff. So here's our lesson outline. It says about 60 minutes, but really what we're trying to go for here is we're going to go for maybe a 45-minute conversation between myself and Senior Master Sergeant Gutierrez, and then we have questions throughout the chat. So feel free to speak up, Airman, and we'll kind of get our opinions. You can get my opinion as a 10-year staff and Senior Master Sergeant Gutierrez's opinion as a leader in our force. So, main point one, everyone contributes to lethality. We can't put steel on target until the planes are fueled and ready. Before that happens, intel must be gathered and analyzed, mission orders drafted and sent, and everyone needs to be housed and fed. All jobs contribute to mission success, readiness, and lethality. Senior, what do you think about that?
Man, that's pretty spot on, in my opinion. So, in my profession, this specific statement here is critical, essentially to the aspect of our job and our duties when we do all over the world, right? So, a lot of our combat controllers are out there working. A lot of our special warfare airmen are doing stuff. A lot of our different types of AFSCs are all doing this stuff downrange. And at the end of the day, we're a wartime fighting force, right? The Air Force is a wartime fighting force. And we can't put steel on target unless everything essentially has been done prior to. So that goes to the armament of the planes, the fueling, the logistics pieces that come in, the wheels to make sure they're good. From my personal perspective, the radio maintenance guys that help me maintain my radios and make sure they're all good up on their software updates and all this other stuff. The supply troops that help us make sure that we have the right, helmets to go out there, the right kit, all that stuff. And then on top of that, the backside support that comes to it. For instance, a lot of our harm people, our charms that make sure our flight workers are good, our flight medicine that makes sure that we're on status, everything that has to be put into place. The way I look at the Air Force is itself is this gigantic mechanism. Within machines, you have all these cogs, and every cog is what will be considered an AFSC or profession, right? And if they're not turning at 100% and fully functioning, that machine won't work. So the actuality of everyone being at 100% and falls into like you being a part of that cog. And if you're not turning it 100%, if you're not giving it 100%, then the whole machine won't work. Those end states of what we're trying to reach for our, strategic objectives across the world won't come in place correctly, and you need that in place. So it's super important that everyone is a part of it. One of the soft truths that we follow upon is that special operations troops can't do their job without conventional support, and it is completely true. We can't do really anything all by ourselves. We are essentially the soft troops in general happen to be very subject matter experts. Their precision, their capabilities are very fine and well tuned, but you can't do it without the support. Yeah, the tip of the spear can't be as lethal without the staff of it being as strong. So
Yeah. Hey, sir. What I kind of like is I like the having you on and having this viewpoint because you kind of obviously just based off the nature of your position, you've been downrange, so you're kind of like that. As other AFSCs use terminology, you're the end user, right? So as all this preparation that comes in and has happened previously, you get to be there and actually see where some of the, like you see the impact of all that preparation sort of immediately. And because of that, I think now so that you're in the position that you are, like I guess you're more administrative now, right? So because of that, you kind of see both ends. How does that perspective lie with you? Like when you were like back in the day when you were out there actually hitting the mission, hitting the ground. Um, how does that feel now, kind of seeing the other end of the spectrum, like being responsible for that part?
um, and that's a really good question. It comes into a turn of events, right? A change of landscape, a change of environment for me. Now, over time, there's some things that it's true. You mature over time, right? The longer you're in the Air Force, the more you mature and the more you see things from a bigger perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I was a younger NCO and an airman out there fighting. All I thought about was just getting the mission done. I just thought about that. You know, everyone that was by my side, it was whole thing was get the mission complete, right? And now from the position I'm at, I see the importance of what everything entails in order to get that mission done. So now my thought process is if I give 150% every day, my support effort, and specifically from where I'm at in the Special Warfare Human Performance Support Group, is that when we build these future warfighters, when we build them and we show them, when we train them with our Special Warfare Training Group, when we provide all the subject matter expertise, the strength and conditioning, the diets, the food, the way to train, the way to be smarter, the way to be programmed correctly to get it done, it's much more valuable and important to me to make sure that gets done. Because I didn't have that when I came through selection and things like that. Most of my guys, we didn't have this technology. We didn't have the capabilities that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to get that in peace, and I see the things like that come into place. And it relates to other squadrons that are on the operational side. For instance, being at the Special Warfare Training Wing, I see how important and valuable our Special Warfare Training Support Squadron is, right? And all the backside work that they do to make sure these candidates and everything get to their pipelines and all this other stuff. I see how valuable it is, how important it is. And it's the difference between us sending 50 troops to a location to go train or not, and then they fall back on the pipeline, and then this thing doesn't work, that doesn't work, and we're just essentially limiting the ability of the operational force if we don't get these guys through safely, effectively, and quickly, and with quality the whole time, right? So you see these perspectives now from my end where I'm like, wow, it's super important that we ensure that these people here in their professions are masters of their professions. My strength and conditioning coaches here within my group, our diet techs, our psych techs, you know what I mean? Our OMS, our operational medical squad, make sure they're, tip top, and make sure they're doing their job because everyone relies on it, right? We rely on that stuff because we have to do it right the first time because it's harder to pick it up and do it the second time or the third time. We get it right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that now from my perspective, and it's a lot different, but it's way more valuable to me to ensure that it's getting done.
I love the fact that you brought all these other support. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the end state of lethality, but all that end state is the preparation between too. So bringing it back into the training environment like you're talking about now and technical training and how it applies to special warfare is very similar. I mean, that's probably how it applies essentially everywhere. As long as we are the people that we have training our airmen right now, and that's why all your instructors, so airmen in training, that's why all your instructors are holding you guys accountable. That's why your MTOs are holding you guys accountable. That's why we're out there every day trying to make sure you guys are adhering to standards, disciplines, customs, and courtesies, studying, making sure that you guys are actually taking the time out of your day to focus on your position in your career, because we're talking about lethality. We're talking about lethality and having the responsibility of the defense of our nation and being able to use the weapons that we have in place to do that. And you guys, Airmen, you guys got to be on point when you do that. You guys got to make sure that you're doing exactly what Senior's saying right here, which is he's talking about all the support structures that are in place to help you guys. But do your best as airmen to try and make sure that you are taking advantage of those support structures, that you guys are adhering to standards, customs, and courtesies, and following the curriculum that you're currently teaching. You're currently learning. So with that, be the sponge. Be the sponge, airman. This is your time to shine. So your connection to lethality right now, and please help me out with this one, Senior. After I'm done with this point, is your connection to lethality right now is learning as much information as you can and completing your mission to graduate from technical training, get to your first SETA location, so you can be in operational use for the Air Force. I think that's probably, at least for our airmen in training, might be one of the better ways that I can think of to try and help these guys visualize where they're at in their careers and what they can do.
Right. That's a solid point. When we look at our professions in this wartime environment, whether the enemy is seen or unseen or whatever the case, right? If you look back in old times, let's just say, for instance, in Asia, for instance, right? The blacksmiths, they build swords for the individuals that were given the opportunity to be a samurai, for instance, right? The samurai would wait for this sword to be perfect, and he relied heavily on how sharp, how long specifically that blade was, and what dimensions that blade and the grip and everything that was made, so it was made perfect. So it would never fail him in battle, right? When he needed it, when he pulled it from its sheath and started using it in battle, he knew that it was solid, right? He knew the foundation of everything of that sword to take it into battle was 100%, that it couldn't have been made better. And they valued the fact that these individuals on the support side basically were making these for them, right? We're building them. We're using the best steel that they had. We're taking them to extreme temperatures to make them solid and to make them solidified, right? And we look at that from our perspective. Our warfighters that are out on the battlefield every day, right? And that ranges from air-based defense, from offensive capabilities within the cyber communities, the intel side, or warfighting troops that are offensive, like, for instance, the Special Warfare AFSCs, the One Zulus, that are out there offensively looking to get in a gunfight and take the fight to them to find, fix, and finish him, right? Mm-hmm. Whoever, right, that's threatening our livelihood and the world. We rely heavily, and we know that, for instance, in my perspective, I knew every jet that was supporting us overhead, that every maintenance piece, that every wrench was turned, every bolt was tightened, that the wheels were working, that the equipment to release munitions and things like that, that the electronic systems on that plane, so when we pass, coordinates and things like that, whether it's a 10-digit grid, an 8-digit grid, or lat long, or whatever the case, they were able to convert it, get it in there. All that stuff was perfect because that pilot needed it to support that mission, right? And it hardens the point of why everyone else's profession in their AFSC is so important. Me personally, I'm a huge proponent of support, right? Because I need it. I understand the value of it, and therefore I love it, right? Senior, as a senior walking around, certain Chinese senior walking around, I'm never happy and trying to be nice to everybody, right? Because I need you guys. I'm not going to and be messed up to you guys only for turn around and say, hey, I need this, right? I need this perfect too. That's not going to get anything. Not going to get anything done. So it just points to, from my position, how valuable I see it and how every AFSC, and it matters, I had this conversation with a friend of mine over the phone. We were talking about this. And one thing that we would always love more than anything else is that when you came home from X amount of hours or days or or whatever the case, and downrange or whatever the case. Nothing really was more valuable to me than a hot meal.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't have it. We didn't have it out there, right? So when we came back to whether it was the fire base or a main fob or a main base where we came to, we went to the DFAC and you see all the services airmen out there making meals and stuff like that, how important that is to me. It's those small things that are so important that it's a necessity that I need in order to survive, in order to be fueled, in order to get out and fight. And we valued it, right? I can't even tell you how much, would you rather take some warm good food or an MRE all the time? Man, I'd take warm food long, I only eat MREs because I have to at that. That's how important it is. And we say all these AFSCs are important with their lethality in this. They're a part of it. They're a part of the kill chain. You got to look at it. Everything from the recruiting squadrons all the way through training, all the way through the operational force. It's a part of this gigantic kill chain. And the kill chain needs to be tight. It needs to be running solid.
Absolutely. I mean, that's I like the way that you put that, part of the kill chain. That's great. So if we kind of can keep that in our mind just in our day-to-day jobs, it maybe will help us get a little bit more motivation to make sure that we're providing the best level of service or the best level of commitment that we do the job. There's a video that we're going to watch here in the curriculum. It's about General Mark Welsh talking about the profession of arms. So we're going to switch over to that real quick, and then you and I can discuss the stuff in the video.
Let me run a video that many of you have probably seen, but before I run it, let me talk to you about it. This is an F-16 sortie. It's in Ramadi, Iraq, probably 7-8 years ago. The F-16 pilot's on station to support a special operator on the ground who's lasing a target for him. The target's just above that gun cross. It's the big square building, because there's a meeting of militant leaderships going on in there in the middle of Ramadi that was reported by a CIA source. And we're going to take it out. Now, as you start to hear the conversation between the soldier on the ground and the guy in the air, you'll hear him talk about a group of civilians who comes out of that building, turns on that road, going down to the bottom of the picture. They're heading to reinforce a gunfight going on with U.S. Army soldiers down to the south. Let's run the video. See the people coming out of down the road?
Take those out. Take them out.
No, I don't know those people. They're bad guys. The guy on the ground knows that. They're also brothers and fathers and husbands and sons, next door neighbors, friends and family members.
10 seconds.
Only other thing I know about them is that they have about 8 seconds to live.
Impact. Oh, dude.
Yeah, oh, dude. Every now and then remind yourself about why you're here, why you're really here, why you wear these things. You're joining the profession of arms. Your job will be an ugly one. There's nothing pretty about what you just saw. There's nothing glorious about it. There's nothing cool about it. It's ugly. But somebody's got to be good at it.
Dang. So that kind of, I mean, if we keep that in the forefront of our mind as we do our mission right there, I think a lot of people, at least it's my perspective, being a military training leader and seeing all the airmen come through and the brand new airmen coming in, it's my perspective that a lot of us maybe don't necessarily think about it in such a real aspect. Like, we know that joining the military means that we are going to be able to provide the lethality, the lethal capabilities to our enemies in defense of our nation. Like, we know that that's essentially what we're going to do, but a lot of us think about that too much in a job specific. And it's okay to think about this as a job specific, but I think we have to try and remind ourselves, even if it's on a day-to-day deal with our job, We wear U.S. Air Force on our chest. We're part of the Department of Defense. We are going to ensure that death and destruction rains down on our enemies in support of our Constitution and our national interests. So, Airmen, think about that as you guys go through your training day. Think about that as you guys, I mean, whether or not it's your training. I'm not asking you guys to have that in the forefront of your mind, like, oh yeah, I'm part of this chain of killing in defense of our nation. Remember, that's the part that you have to keep focus on, is like you're following a mission, a plan with all this support structure and evidence behind it that says that what we're doing is right for our country and for our military. So, as you're going through training, I mean, think about that every so often. Know that what you're doing, you the medic, you the ER tech, you the special warfare guy, you the firefighter, you the MTL, whatever you are, whatever your AFSC is, you're here to make sure that we can provide that level of defense in support of our nation and our national interests. So as you're going through, you got to be excellent, guys. You got to be excellent so that we can make sure that we are wielding that responsibility to the best of our ability with the best intentions, integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. So, what do you think about that video, Senior?
That's a pretty good video.
Mm-hmm.
It's, retired General Welsh is straight on, to the point. The enemy does have their own lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to be effective in a wartime place, and we're trying to meet ours. They're probably husbands, fathers, uncles, or whatever, brothers, things like that. But at the end of the day, we got a mission to get done. 'Cause at the end of the day, they're trying to hurt, kill, maim, do whatever they can to U.S. American forces and try to disrupt democracy across freedom. And we're going to meet them head on. In my experience and from a lot of my good friends and brothers, man, war is ugly. It is what it is. But we have a job to do. And we got to get it done. Because there's bigger things at stake, right? But if you notice, there's a live feed going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we show at the time, and understand that when we talk about lethality and things like that, and we talk about everybody being on point. Imagine if the intel guy and the comm guy and the combat comm guy who was running those feeds didn't do his job 100%. Just imagine that, right? And the feed goes out. And they're at the JOC or at the AOC or whatever the case, and they're watching this and they're ensuring that everything was done correctly. And the feed that the pilot's pushing, goes out because someone didn't do their job, well enough. And then we don't get to see that. We can't confirm it. We can't do anything like that. Or the feed goes out and they say, hey, since we can't see it, we can't confirm all this other stuff, we're not going to do it. Imagine if all those enemy fighters were still running around loose, how many more lives they would have taken, how many more people they would have had. How many more innocent lives they would have, went after? You got to look at it from that point. So that's why everyone needs to they got to be on their top game all the time, both mentally, spiritually, physically, and knowledge on the job.
Absolutely. So another question that the lesson plan leads us to is, what would happen if your AFSC was not available to complete the mission? So I'll say, at least for me as an MTL right now, if my AFSC wasn't able to complete the mission right now, I can't tell you guys, and a lot of you guys, airmen in training, you guys think that all we do is yell at you, make sure that you guys are wearing your uniforms correctly, but we do so much more as trying to help you guys get through any issues that you as an airman in training have. We do whatever we can to help you guys overcome those issues and get through it and graduate your training on time so you can get to your first duty location and you can become an operational asset to our defense. So if my job isn't there, the truth is, guys, will people still graduate? Yes. Will people still be awarded their AFSCs? Absolutely. Will people still get to their duty locations? That's true. But not as fast, not as efficiently, and obviously with a lot more stress and hardship on you guys than if you didn't. So the Air Force does a great thing right now is they give you an NCO such as myself and all my other MTL peers to be able to be present there almost at all times. We're at your disposal. to help support you as you get through training and help deal with whatever issues you have. So that way you can become an operational asset. That's why the Air Force has all these benefits. That's why we have the medical benefits that we have, the leave benefits that we have. They have everything that we have is in an effort to support you so that you as an airman can focus on the mission. And then, Senior, what do you think? If your AFSC wasn't present, I mean, what's that mean for us?
Well, I try not to imagine a life like that. No, I mean, think about it. Specifically, my profession as a combat controller.
Mm-hmm.
If present, if we weren't there, if we didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to get a lot of the tactical wins on the war front and the innovation that's out there now, leading the way. We wouldn't be able to get done. We wouldn't be able to do large things because if you look back in history, specifically, and this is just from my own knowledge of understanding my career field and its history and its lineage and stuff like that. A lot of the drops that would have happened in the Korean War and Vietnam and things like that to put troops out there to land planes correctly and safely wouldn't have happened. The leading up all the way to like 9/11, right after 9/11, there was combat controllers with every special forces team out there.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have had the success of defeating the Taliban if it wasn't for the airmen that were on the battlefield, using those airstrikes to take an enemy out, an enemy that hadn't seen that kind of firepower before. So up even to this point, they're still scared. They're frightened. So if we weren't around, it'd be pretty difficult because we consider ourselves the air-to-ground link, the critical air-to-ground link that provides, not only close air support, but, austere airfield control, air traffic control, and austere airfields as first there is the first one in to bring the stack and push it all in, push frontline troops out to get them out there and set everything up. So to provide the landing zone surveys and things like that go into play prior to everything that happens. So it'd be rough, to tell you that.
Senior, even in that mission that was ultimately awarded you the Air Force Cross, right there, like if you weren't present for that, like how many additional American citizens or American military members would have passed away just from that alone? I mean, reading the story and going through it, I mean, it makes sense to me that we have to have that air-to-ground link so that we can make sure that we have eyes on ground to see the exact situation so that planes up there in their high altitude view can make sure they get the mission details they need to provide effective fire.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So as we transition even further, we're going to go over to our main point 2. So we talked right now in main point 1, we really talked about how all AFSCs come together, and because of that, we're able to provide this warfighting mission capability. Now, as we transition from there, we're going into readiness. So, yeah, we can train our people up, make sure that they're good to go, but readiness. Why is readiness important to the lethality? What do you think, Senior?
And it says it right in the word, right? Readiness, mm-hmm. Right? We don't know, essentially, when everything's going to happen. Unknown. The enemy doesn't tell you ahead of time, saying, hey, next week, let's make an appointment for 09, and we want to fight. Hey, can I get on your Outlook calendar and send you an appointment schedule? Say, hey, we'll meet you at this location, and we kind of feel like getting froggy then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is no playground bully. Meet me after school. We're gonna
behind the school at the swings. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. And the only way to be prepared and ready to go at any instance is readiness. Is that all our members in the Air Force, especially in training, are ready in readiness, right? That they are prepared, that they understand, that our airmen are learning to become the technical experts, that our NCOs from staff to tech become the technical experts, that our leaders from master and above understand that technicality of what was necessary in the job, in the profession, and that they manage and supervise and fund and resource those capabilities out there to get them done. So the readiness also comes from all kinds of perspectives, right? That everyone's met, that you're financially ready, that your PT is good to go. people harp, on some things like, hey, your PT, I'm only going to try to work out only like maybe once or twice a week. Like, come on, man. Like, that's a part of your readiness. Being able to pick up a rifle with body armor, a helmet, and ammo, and go fight, from any location, under any circumstance, under any AFSC. That's why the Air Force puts you through it, right? That's why you go through all your training prior to pre-deployments and stuff like that. But maintaining that mindset, it comes down. There's the current senior enlisted advisor, the chairman of Joint Chief of Staff, Chief Colon Lopez, right? He has a carnivore mindset. That carnivore mindset is a great read, by the way, too, on carnivore leadership. And it shows you, and it tells you how to essentially try to live your life, be a leader. It's real funny that he makes a statement in there that says, you can't soar like an eagle if you hang around with turkeys, right? It doesn't fly like an eagle, right?
Yeah.
If you crowd yourself with eagles, you're going to end up becoming an eagle, because the inherent nature of being a carnivore and things like that is wanting to win, right? Surround yourself with people of the caliber and make yourself better, consistently challenge yourself, right? And that comes to readiness. Challenge yourself to be ready, do things. I had some really good NCOs when I was a young airman that challenged me on readiness, right? They challenged me on, spot evaluations on my PT, on becoming a, team leader exercises, things like that. And then other things, and they would say, hey, in order to understand your profession, how this works, you have to master it, right? Be ready. And I was like, how do you know? They're like, you should be able to have a radio on your back in the middle of the night where you can't see it and reach back there on your PRC, at the time 117 Foxtrot, and hand jam your radio to the frequency you need to get comms up. And that was like eye-opening. I'm like, what? And they're like, you need to be ready for any instance. And man, I would do that. I would go to my cage and I would shut the lights off in my training cage where I had, and I'd put my pack on, and I'd either close my eyes or have the lights off and try to plug it in and figure it out. And then have a friend of mine who's on the other side, and I do a radio check with him, and I'd either get it or not, and I just keep practicing, boom, 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 all the time until I got it right, so where I can never, ever fail it, because the only way I know how to do it is to do it right the first time, every time, right? So, yeah, and it comes across all the time, right? Maintaining your readiness and being ready to fight. You never know when it's going to happen, and we have to be prepared.
I love that. Absolutely. Never know what's going to happen, and we have to be prepared. And part of being prepared is making sure that we're mentally, physically healthy. All that stuff, we have to make sure that we're prepared. And the nice thing about the military, too, right now, guys, so if you don't already know, there's a ton of resources for you to make sure that you're mentally, physically, and everything ready. Operationally ready. That's one of the reasons why you're in technical training right now. We got to get you operational ready to get to your first duty location so you can complete your on-the-job training, OJT, and get out there and be an asset for our deployments. Now, on top of that, you guys got to think about your mental well-being, your family's mental well-being, and your health. So we have chaplains available if you have any type of issues that you need some counseling to talk to. We have chaplains available. We have behavioral assistance available. We have Military One Source, or all these other programs. The Airman Family Readiness Center, you guys can go there essentially at any point in time. While you're in technical training, please use your chain of command, let your MTLs know. But when you get to your first duty location, rely on your supervisor and your leadership, and rely on the resources on base to help you get through whatever challenges you're going through right now. Don't hold them in. Don't keep them secret. I can't tell you how many times I've taken advantage of my leadership. And like Senior right now, I'm looking for people to help me discuss these Airmanship 200 topics, and he was on it. He wanted to help me discuss this one specifically. Having your leadership support you in what you're doing is only a resource to make you better. So make sure that while you guys are going, whether you're going through training or whether you get to your first duty location, utilize the programs that are available to help keep you ready. Senior talked about that operational readiness and making sure that you adhere to your instructions and technical orders so that you can know how to utilize that radio or know how to do your job to the best of your ability. And that is the biggest side. That's the mission impact capable side. But we got to have all these other things, that other pillars of readiness, or those other pillars of that we talked about previously in our other Airmanship 200 things. You have to be spiritually ready, physically ready, mentally ready, all those good things so that we can ensure that we actually provide that level of defense to our nation. Senior, thank you so much. That is awesome.
Yeah,
So
no worries.
All right, there's another video that we're going to watch, and so our main point 3 is going to be Air Force heritage of lethality. So we're going to watch a video, and then I want to read a memorandum that came from General Mattis when he was the Secretary of Defense. So first we'll watch this video.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. That bomb has...
We were the only country to ever use an atomic bomb in war. 30,000 feet, looking down on the city. It took 45 seconds from the time it left the aircraft to detonation. The in-between time. The world that was, and the world that would be. The crew counted and waited for a flash of light to change forever the way countries talk to each other. Cold Wars, brinkmanship, trust but verify, deterrence. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Khrushchev, Kim Jong-un. Old allies, new enemies. We tell people back home we work with nuclear weapons, and they want to joke about movies they've seen. Diffusing warheads with seconds to spare. Super villains. We laugh, we're human, but they have no idea. Nobody does. It is our duty, our privilege, to maintain the integrity of our nation's shield. We are our nation's shield. We serve in the middle of nowhere, on the edge of history. We serve on the global stage of policy, diplomacy, leverage, and madmen. We're not out here babysitting metal, twiddling thumbs, or flying in circles. We are airmen in the United States Air Force. The world is in constant chaos, so we are on constant alert. We are here to keep the world from boiling over. We work as a team. There can be no weakness. There can be no vulnerability. Never. The world is watching. This is a destructive force so terrifying, its very existence is our weapon. And make no mistake about it, we are here to scare the living hell out of our enemies. Scare them with our power, our resolve, our dedication, our vigilance. We will not be the ones to blink. We are fully aware that should these weapons ever be used, the final page of history is in our hands. You can't live your life within inches of a nuclear weapon and not feel the weight of the world. Our mission is to carry that weight. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Sticks don't get much bigger than this.
Whew.
Aim high, airmen.
Whew. Whew. I love those pace videos.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about readiness, like that's one of probably the most vital sources of readiness that we provide in the defense of our nation right there. Like nuclear readiness is huge, and it requires a ton of expertise and professionalism and attention to detail that can never vary or wane. Like we have to make sure that we provide that level of attention to detail so that we are responsible stewards of this great power that we have to ensure the defense of our nation. That's awesome. So this says the evolution, something that we could kind of be talking about, especially for readiness, is the evolution of nuclear power. So going before nuclear power to after nuclear power, really, us being ready and utilizing the powers that we have, like that sends a huge message to everybody across the globe that we are going to be the dominant power. What do you think about that, Senior?
You know, in order to maintain that position of being, you know, a dominant power, you have to train to it, and you always have to be ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
The essential task that it involves to maintain that, right? It's tiresome, it's long, and in our case, it's endless. In order for us to be that way, you got to keep pushing, right? All the time, and we maintain that readiness throughout the whole place, because you know, God forbid we ever have to do that again, and launch something like that. But we need to be ready to go in case. There's crazy people out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some lunatics out there that would love nothing but to go to war, and we always want to maintain that peace. But you have to maintain that peace through power. and personal readiness of our Air Force to execute when needed.
Yeah, and I mean the video shows so many different AFSCs and jobs that are all connected to that. So that's Global Strike Command and the responsibility of that to maintain the nuclear weapons force and then to make sure that we're operationally ready so that we can provide death and destruction on those individuals that would hurt us or do anything to us. So with Global Strike Command, they have all AFSCs in there anyway. But on top of that, it showed in that video, it showed all of them. It showed services, security forces, it showed the maintainers. I mean, it's sort of like that definition of readiness to make sure that we are prepared in our positions so that we can provide that one thing, that nuclear weapon, on our enemies. And with that, like, it takes all that training and everything that you discussed previously to make sure that we have that in the forefront of our mind so that we can provide that level of service to our nation. So I think it was, back here it says August 13, 2018. In 2018, I pulled all of our students together in our briefing room over on the Chapman Annex, or briefing room, the auditorium. And I read them this memo because I feel like this memo really helps us understand a lot of stuff about discipline and lethality. So I'm going to read this on stream, and then me and you can talk about it real quick, and then from there we'll probably get ready to wrap it up. So, memorandum for secretaries of the military and department chiefs of the military service commanders of the combatant commands. Subject: discipline and lethality. As we aggressively execute our nation's defensive strategy and make our force more lethal, I remind you that enhanced lethality demands more than increasing the size of our formations and obtaining newer, more advanced equipment. It also requires having a more disciplined force. General Washington once commanded an outmanned and outgunned group of patriots that defeated Great Britain, then the strongest military in the world. He observed, "Discipline is the soul of an army. It makes small numbers formidable, procures success to the weak, and esteem to all." Today, we are the most powerful military in the world and find ourselves in a competition among great powers. Our national defense strategy requires us to expand the competitive space to challenge those competitors. We must have better individual and unit discipline than our enemies. It is incumbent on our leaders to ensure that American forces are always the most disciplined on the battlefield, whatever the domain might be. The discipline of today includes vigilant operational security, protection of electronic equipment, and responsible social media activity. We must demonstrate respect for all service members, build trust, and remove the cancer of sexual misconduct from our ranks. All service members learn to fight well by doing the little things perfectly. Otherwise, they cannot possibly get the big things right when all goes wrong. Enforcing standards is a critical component of making our force more lethal. Our leaders must uphold proven standards. They should know the difference between a mistake and a lack of discipline. If a subordinate makes a mistake, leaders should learn to coach them better. But we must not tolerate or ignore lapses in discipline, for our enemies will benefit if we do not correct and appropriately punish the substandard conduct. Time, inconvenience, or administrative burdens are no excuse for allowing substandard conduct to persist. The military justice system is a powerful tool that preserves good order and discipline while protecting civil rights of service members. It is a commander's duty to use it. Military leaders must not interfere with individual cases, but fairness to the accused does not prevent military officers from appropriately condemning and eradicating malignant behavior from our ranks. Leaders must be willing to choose the harder right over the easier wrong. Administrative action should not be the default method to address illicit conduct simply because it is less burdensome than the military justice system. Leaders cannot be so risk-averse that they lose their focus on forging disciplined troops ready to ferociously and ethically defeat our enemies on the battlefield. And then I love this part right here. We have no God-given right to victory. Discipline is a competitive edge we must seek and maintain each day if we are to keep America safe from its enemies. As General Washington learned firsthand, discipline will make us stronger and more lethal. Therefore, let nothing prevent us from becoming the most disciplined force this world has ever known. Whew. I mean, the first time I read that and read that out to the students, it made such an impact on my career because right now, being a military training leader, I feel like this speaks directly to me. I have to make sure that you guys are disciplined. I have to make sure that you guys adhere to standards, customs, and courtesies and do what you need to do to get through your training and learn and transition from the civilian lifestyle to the military lifestyle. Just like Senior has to do everything he needs to do to provide that level of leadership, that administrative level of leadership, and that example that he does now so greatly. so that I can learn from him and do the same thing for you guys. So keep that in mind as you guys are going through your day. Hey, Senior, what do you think about that message?
It's pretty spot on. Again, discipline is what's going to get you today, right? Discipline builds a routine. Routines build consistency, and the consistency of doing everything right. And if you do everything right from the beginning and you build that consistency, man, you've just essentially become that. It's become you, and that's how you are, right? And when you take readiness and lethality and look at it and the discipline of our force, it doesn't get any more exact and yet broad and vague, but precise with a message that tells you everything, right? And especially the last portion, victory it's not given to us. It's not granted. It's not a given. We earn it. We earn it every day. You know what I mean? Our Air Force in general, and now the Space Force is coming, is going to earn it every day. We're going to earn the position of being the dominant power. But it's only through hard work and discipline.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I mean, that pretty much covers the lethality lesson. I think we've hit it pretty good on the head. Do you have any other maybe tips for airmen in training who are going through technical training? Anything that you can provide as guidance or leadership for them? What do you think, sir?
As you mentioned earlier, Sergeant Traina, it's one thing: be a sponge. Right now, our airmen in training are essentially in the infancy of their careers, right? And they need to take every bit of information and understand it, write it down, take a note, do whatever you got to do, right? To make sure that you can read it, write it down, and get it and put it in your head, right? You're going to use it at some point. There's some things that during training when I was coming through that, in honesty, that I was like, I don't think I ever used that. And then, 6 years down the road, I'm like, damn it, I'm using it, And then I'm reading back and looking at my notes and my manual. Like I go, man, I would have just paid a little bit more attention. You know what I mean? To that, it would have been legit, right? I would have been better at it. You never want to have the regret of going, man, I should have done this. You should always have this. They say, no, I did it right. Mm-hmm. I don't have to have that regret. I did it right. And pretty much in your everyday piece, super easy. Because once you become accustomed to that, that's just your life. It is what it is. You get really good at it. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Senior. Hey, so what we're going to do is, I appreciate it, Senior. Thank you so much for showing up, talking about lethality with us. And I'm going to go off on a tangent with the airmen right now as we talk about how we're going to provide, pretty much how we're going to focus on being that sponge and what we can do. If you want to stay on, that's great. If you don't, I think we're good. Whatever you prefer, sir.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple minutes if they want any QA or whatever the case if you want to knock out, and then I gotta move on to my next scheduled thing.
All right, I got the chat up right now. Hey guys, if you have any questions for Senior in chat, please feel free to ask. If not, we're just going to talk about being that sponge and providing what our level of leadership is and what our level of learning is right now and what we can do. So as you guys go through, it's a very difficult transition when you go from your civilian service, or I should say as a civilian, then going into the military. So think about this transition that you're making right now. What Senior and I are discussing is a lifestyle choice, really. Like, yes, the Air Force is your job, but sooner or later, the Air Force comes a little bit more than that, and it becomes your mission. It becomes part of your life. And because of that, really what I need you guys to do and what I need you guys to focus on is how you can be the best you as an airman. And right now, what that means is think about all the challenges that you have right now. So you went from civilian, some of you maybe younger, maybe straight out of high school, you went from civilian, living with your parents, to living on your own in this military system. And that is a huge transition, guys. I mean, I can't tell you, you guys are still trying to figure out who you are as people, away from your family and the support structure that you had. Boom, and now you're in this where we're giving you a whole bunch of missions, we're giving you core values, we're giving you standards of conduct and discipline and everything that you have to do. So give yourself some time, guys. If you're not doing everything right, it's okay. Give yourself some time. But every day you should be making improvements. Every day you should be looking at yourself and how you can be a better airman and what you can do to earn U.S. Air Force on your chest. Yeah, you're getting benefits. You're getting your leave, your accruing leave, you're getting your pay, you're getting your medical benefits, you're getting all the other things, educational benefits later on after you finish your technical training, get to your first duty location, finish your OJT and CDCs, you'll be able to take advantage of those educational benefits. But think about what you're doing now. The reason why the Air Force said, hey, provide professional development to airmen in training is so that you can be a better you, so that you can be a better airman, and then in turn that'll help our country, that'll help our nation. So give yourself the leeway to make mistakes, forgive yourself when you do, and try to be better every single day. And while you're doing that, think about this transition. Try not to take too much on your plate right now, guys. You got a mission and a job that you got to focus on. You got to make sure that you maintain your physical, mental, and spiritual readiness like we just talked about in here. And so maybe, just maybe, for all those guys in technical training who are thinking about marriage, maybe wait till you get to your first duty location. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, maybe. You know your life better than anybody else. And make sure that when you guys are making any of these large commitments, do your best to talk to your supervisors or talk to your MTLs, talk to your first sergeants, talk to your chaplains, get their perspective. And it is their perspective. You're the leader of your own destiny, that's for sure. But please, get these are people that care about you. We care about the mission and we care about you. And we need you to be successful in your military career and in your personal endeavors. So just give yourself some leeway. Take some time. You don't have to do everything so fast. You don't need to compare yourself to any of the other airmen around you. Take some time to make sure that you have your plan right so that you can get through this transition from from civilian service to military service. And if you guys are married, please think about that for your spouses and kids and the people that you support. Those people who are coming with you, they're doing the same thing. If you guys are anything like, so I'm one of the people. I got married in technical training. And because of that, my wife went from her stable situation where she was at to me across the nation and with no family support structure or anything. So it's something that you got to think about. It's a big stressor on your life, on your spouse's life, and make sure that you provide that support structure and take advantage of the resources the military gives you. So that's all I wanted to make sure that I left off with. It doesn't look like we have any questions in chat right now, Senior. So other than that, I think we're wrapping up the stream. I'm good to go if you're good to go, sir.
I'm good to go.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks guys. Appreciate it. We'll hit you up with another Airmanship 200 lesson next Tuesday 0900. Let's make sure what time it is. Next Tuesday 0900, the 12th. We're gonna get a topic, and from there we'll discuss it. Do the same thing that we did this Tuesday. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write them either in the comment section of the video. Feel free to email the Airmanship 200 channel. Whatever you guys want to do to kind of ask your questions or provide content, I would love to read it off, read your perspectives off, and we can get a hold and have this conversation back and forth. Guys, make sure that you stick with your professional development. Make sure you stick with your technical training and become a better airman every day. You got to earn U.S. Air Force on your chest. Thanks again, guys. You guys are doing great.
Airmanship.